It's 65 days, but I treat every day like it's my last. I'm only concerned with building on the future, cause I can't change my past. Positive vibes for positive lives. She just giving you that truth and shifting your mind. It's more mental than you realize. It's up to you to take control, cause this world is cold and negativity gon' take its toll. Now we've been told any day could be your last. I'm embracing every moment and I cherish every laugh, every smile, every hug, every kiss, every touch, every person in my life that I care about and love. But wait, maybe I'm getting too emotional. That's exactly what they say you ain't supposed to do. Suppress your feelings, never talk about your pain. Can't appreciate the sun without acknowledging it rains, right? That's right. So this a moment of clarity, and make sure you always protect your energy. You stay focused and your life gon' be lit. And you are now rocking with Celeste, the therapist. Let's go.
That's my song. Hi, beautiful people. So for people watching me on the replay, thank you for watching me. I appreciate you. People that's never been here before, my name is Celeste. I'm a therapist from Boston. I come on, I talk to people who are doing things to empower the lives of others by sharing their story. And I just did my 300th episode. I need to figure out how to get sound effects on this thing, because I listen to podcasts and they be doing it. I got to figure out how to do it so I can get my sound effects on. So 300 episodes. So this is episode 301. And one person that I love to have on is Jeff. And Jeff is somebody who is freaking amazing. Every now and then his introduction changes every now and then. And today I guess he's amazing. So, because, I got to give him, I feel like it's getting a little toxic, because sometimes you're all right and sometimes you're amazing.
Sometimes I'm just all right. Thank you for that rousing introduction.
I'm gonna get it right. One of these days I'm gonna get it right where it flows really nice.
We'll get there. Thank you very much. I'm Jeff Rogers, aka the Professor Jeff Gray. Good to hear and see everybody today. I'm an executive coach and facilitator, trainer, all those things. Love to help people solve problems. And today we're gonna solve y'all's. Whoever wrote in, whoever types in, let's do it.
Yes. And so just because people that, I have regular people that watch me, I just want to read your resume. People tend to do that on podcasts. I don't typically do that, but because you're always on, I feel a need to let people really know. So Jeff, let me see. Is that okay with you, Jeff?
Sure.
So Jeff is an executive leadership coach and facilitator who has been training, coaching, and facilitating for over 10 years. There's kids that's not even that old yet.
Dear God.
In the greater Boston. He specializes in the solution-focused method, radical candor, and in working with low trust, high heterogeneity. Heterogeneity groups. I'm going to ask you what that means, because I'm a little slow. People that are not necessarily predisposed to agree. Okay. Genuine transformation is hard work, so Jeff uses humor, unconventional examples, and a strong emphasis on interactivity. And I probably should have read this more before I did.
I don't have it in front of me, so I don't know what it is.
Experiential learning to make sure that everyone feels engaged and connected. Bam, that's so true. That's so you. Jeff started his career in behavioral health, designing and running the training department for the largest Black community service agency in Massachusetts, Children's Services of Roxbury. Since then, he has worked with both local and international organizations on issues like diversity, equity, and inclusion, mission alignment, strategic planning, and conflict resolution. He runs YW's LeadBoston program, GenUnity's cohort, teaches nonprofit leadership and community engagement at the Harvard Extension School, coached MBA students at the Harvard Business School, Interpersonal Skills Development Lab, coaches executives nationally for Root Cause, and is one of the recommended executive coaches for the Bar Foundation Fellowship. Whew. I just read that again. I read it already. I read it again. And I'm like, I can't believe I got you on my show, honestly.
I can't believe you've welcomed me to your show. Thank you so much, Celeste.
You're
Thank
so
you so
awesome.
much.
I want to be like you when I grow up.
Right? That's another old joke. See, you're jabbing me with the age.
All right, let's get into these questions. So,
What?
for people, Jeff's like, yeah, let's do that because Jeff don't like talking about Jeff. Jeff just likes helping people solve problems, so he's trying to do what he do right now.
Do it.
So I'm gonna there's a couple of questions that came up, and if anybody's listening and has a question, feel free to ask. People tend to write in about relationships, but it doesn't have to just be intimate relationships. It could be work, it could be family, it could be friends, whatever type of relationship that you have a question about. We tend to answer. So the first question, where is it? How do I tell my girl I need some alone time without hurting her feelings? How do I tell my girl that I need some alone time without hurting her feelings? That was the first question. What do you think about that?
Well, of course, this is one sentence, and it's a good sentence, but it's only one sentence. So you wonder what the issue is. Now, let's say they're two perfectly healthy people, right? When I say it's perfectly healthy in a relationship way, they'd say, you know what, today I really want to, spend some time with myself. I really wanted like solitude. Is that all right? So today I know this week we were going to go to the mall. Can we go tomorrow? So I can just be alone today? You could do that. But this person's asking this question in a way that makes me think that maybe they think that won't be enough. So maybe if whoever's wrote that, if that would be enough, just do that. But a lot of people have what's called codependence, right? Codependence. And a codependent person is basically somebody who, in a relationship, they put other people's feelings above or before their own. So they don't feel empowered to say things like, I need space today, because the concern is that the other person doesn't want space. And since your feelings come before mine, I can't want that. Right?
I know.
And if two people are codependent, they become really, really trapped in this, where they constantly need each other's validation to make any move, to the point where you might want to be alone, but you can't say that because that's, I'm not good enough, or what am I doing wrong that would make you ever want to be away from me? When in reality, it's healthy to say, you know what? Today, you and me don't have to be up each other's asses the whole time. We can actually do something else. So I guess in that situation, you might say the same thing that we said first, which is, hey, do you mind if, today's just a day. You didn't do anything, but I just might need a little solitude. But then prepare, if you sense that there's codependence like I've just described, then maybe you say, hey, I need a little solitude, but you'd be ready for a brief explanation. Like, listen, this isn't a judgment of you. Okay. Maybe you could even, I don't actually recommend that you Google codependence and show them, but you could, but really what you do is you just say, hey, I need this space, and be ready for like 15 minutes just to say, this is nothing personal. Isn't it healthy sometimes just to be, have you ever enjoyed solitude in any way? Well, so do I sometimes. And there's nothing, it'll make us coming together even better. Yeah. And just kind of, you say it, but you be ready for her to assume that something's wrong, and you spend a quick time explaining it. But in the end, the one thing I say don't do is say, okay, forget it. I don't need the space. On second thought, let's climb up each other's butt cheeks and stay there for eternity. I say that is a nightmare. What do you say, Celeste?
I say you're right. And the fact that it gets to that point where people are afraid to say what they need is a problem. And a lot of times, like, with the codependency thing, people think that they're helping their partner by giving them, like, I always want you under me, so I'm going to give it to you. But you actually enable that behavior. And then you stifle yourself. You actually begin suffocating. When people start like acting out or, doing things in a relationship, it doesn't start overnight. It's because your needs aren't getting met, not because of your partner, but because of you, especially because we're both adults. And I think a lot of times the behaviors that we're exhibiting, a lot of it's happening because it's maybe someplace that, we thought it's supposed to look like what we see on TV, or even, our environment, the way that we were raised. So having a healthy relationship may seem dysfunctional for somebody that wants that codependency. But I think that really, and then if it works for you, I love it. Like if both of y'all want to be under each other and y'all codependent with each other and you're happy, but 9 times out of 10 that's not the case. And so like I think your feedback around what to do is great, but I think because this writer is writing and it's been going on this way for a while now, so don't be ready for the emotional roller coaster that may happen because you enabled that behavior by allowing it for so long. Does that make sense?
Oh no, it definitely does. I think you make a good point. Relationships have patterns, right? Some people, every night they don't know if they're going to be home for dinner or not. But some couples, you're always home at 6 p.m. So then on the first night when you're not, it's like, what the hell? Where was you at? Right? So it's not like, well, you say, well, I didn't say I was going to be home tonight. We all know that you've been home at 6 p.m. for the last 700 days. So on this day, that was weird. So sometimes you got to establish, say, hey, I've been thinking and I realized that sometimes I'm just going to, I felt this way, but I was worried it would hurt you. But I thought about it and I realized that it shouldn't hurt you because it's not about you. And I love you the same today as I did yesterday. And I just sometimes I realize I really want to work on learning how to be alone with my thoughts sometimes. So I'm going to carve out time for that sometimes. Okay. I had a buddy who was and I love the buddy. He was in a relationship so codependent. We'd be watching a basketball game. Let's say we're watching a Celtics game. And I would know the only reason he's watching this game with me is because his girlfriend went somewhere, like a rare thing. She went somewhere. So that's why he's free. Because if she was home, he never would even come out.
Damn.
Then one time we're watching this game. That's already unspoken that I know this. And then he gets a call. It's halftime of the game. He gets a call. And it's his girl. She's home. So at halftime of the game, he stands up and goes, hey, look, man, I'm going to head out. I'm like, yo, the game's not over. But they're so codependent that he can't even finish the game. The minute she's home, it's like a betrayal for him to not be there with her.
Dang.
Now, on one hand, that's why I flinch a little bit. When you say, like, if he's happy and she's happy, then that's fine. I would probably say if he's happy and she's happy, it's not an emergency. But ideally, you'd be able to operate as two separate people and not literally be conjoined twins in a relationship where if she's at the house, you have to be at the house.
Right. Yeah, and I think you're right. And I think, some people may say, well, I'm fine, right? Because they're operating off of their partner and what they think that their partner needs, but not like when people really sit with themselves. And I'm sure this pandemic forced a lot of people to sit with themselves and figure out they're really not content in their relationship. But when they sit with themselves, they start to recognize, like, this isn't really what I want. Like, I don't really want to be doing it like this. So I think that's important to understand.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. The challenge is to a lot of times there's a concept called maximizing versus satisficing. Okay. So maximizing is trying to make things as great as they can be. Right. So you want to let's just say, like, some people with money, they're saying, listen, if I can make 101, that's better than making 100. They're maximizing money. Satisficing is saying what's good enough, where you say, look, I do Uber and I quit every day once I've made $200. Do you know what I mean? Like, I hear there's more drives to be done, but once I've made $200, I've satisfied my daily quota and I go home.
Yep.
Right. That would be satisficing. So a lot of times people say, I'm happy. But what they really mean is, I'm satisfied. I won't die with this arrangement. This won't actually kill me. So I'm going to just rock with it.
And it's better than what I grew up watching, because I watched this and that happen. And this is a lot better than where I'm at now. So I'm just going to, and a lot of people, they go through this life feeling very uncomfortable, very not satisfied, but it becomes a norm. Like, it's just what they've been used to doing. So damn, that's a really good. I'll be learning a lot of stuff from here with you.
Well, the challenge is, sometimes I think one of the most unlucky things that can happen is to have a C- life, because C- is bad, but it's not rock bottom. It doesn't make you change. So sometimes having a big, huge F, right? Your life is just a 22%. It's horrible. It's a nightmare. And it makes you have a crisis and you say, I got to do things differently.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas having a C- life, right? You getting by at like 70%, just limping along.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't motivate you to change.
Mm-hmm.
And so a big challenge is to make a change in your life before you get to a huge crisis. In this case, the letter writer is writing and saying, I need some alone time, but I don't want to hurt her feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe let's assume maybe they don't live together. Maybe this happens a lot, really, where she's just like, am I coming over there tonight or are you coming over here? And there's no room for, actually tonight I was going to kick back because I had a long day. And so like, you got to sometimes be able to maximize your life to say like, hey, I really do care about you. However I felt about you yesterday when you were here, that's how I feel about you today. But I'm going to see you tomorrow and just have the courage to do it. Please go ahead, Celeste.
And just for the record, having alone time is important. Like, I think when people get into these relationships, especially when they're new, you get so like engulfed in it. You forget about yourself. You could be on a good path. And then, because when relationships are new, there's this like feeling that happens that you haven't had before. It's what you've seen on TV and everything like looks good. And so people end up losing themselves because they're going off of the feeling. And then when when the relationship gets down to after the honeymoon stage happens, you start to be like, oh, I need my alone time, but you've always needed it.
Right. You're just infatuated.
You were just infatuated. So like, that's, I think having an individual, and when I say like having a relationship with yourself, really being having your needs met, because your partner cannot fulfill your needs. Your partner should be an added bonus. Like if I'm looking for my partner to complete me, and people say that all the time, and people feel incomplete without relationships because, society will ask you, why aren't you in a relationship, when you're 29, 30, like, why are you single? But nobody ever says like, why are you married? So like that question alone makes me think like I'm inadequate if I'm not sure of myself and understand, and I'm not trying to go with the masses. You could be completely content, but not recognize that you're not content only because society keeps asking you, why are you single? So really like just be mindful of, the way that you're doing things and make sure it's what you want.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck.
So the next question, I feel like people will have like mixed views on this, but I guess I'm curious about what you have to say. So I'll read it for my audio listeners. I'm having trouble being comfortable with my partner, being friends with the opposite sex. Do you think men and women can be platonic friends? Why you got to do the long?
Because I think you're right. I think people will have mixed feelings about this.
Yeah, people will have mixed feelings about it.
So I think we got to separate out, right, what is proper from like an etiquette perspective from how relationships work. And this is what I mean. Depending on certain cultural relationship norms, right? There are cultures where it's just improper, and I mean worldwide, where it's just improper for certain people to be like interact or be alone together. So there are like tribes and stuff where it's understood that a man and a woman who are related can never be in the hut alone together because that's like improper. But a man and woman who are not related can be, because it'd be fine if they hooked up, but it would not be fine if brother and sister hooked up. So weirdly, in this culture, a brother and a sister cannot be alone together, right? Our culture is kind of weirdly the opposite, right? If some Instagram hottie pulls up and then I say, that's my sister, and then I don't know, oh yeah, that is your sister. Suddenly it's okay that we're going out to dinner. But if an Instagram hottie pulls up and we're not related, then that's not okay, right? And she's wearing clothes from Fashion Nova, all spandex, skin tight. Then I'm just going out. This is just my friend. This is my friend Alizé. Alizé are going somewhere. It's like, oh no, you and Alizé are not. So that aspect's cool, right? But let's skip that a little bit. Whoever wrote this, your own culture, right? You and your mate, you and your partner might not have the same culture, but your own, right? Clearly, like, I don't know, Mike Pence, our former vice president, famously, he said that he would not go out to dinner with a woman unless his wife was there. That's what he said. He would never go. But like, this means like Kamala Harris. He wouldn't go with a female senator. He wouldn't go out to dinner with them. And people mocked him for being old fashioned. But the truth is, he's an evangelical Christian. And while I don't necessarily agree with that thing, he didn't make that up. That's like standard for his culture. Makes sense? So I'm not going to go against it. But the question is, can a man and woman be platonic friends? The answer to that, to me, is clearly yes. Clearly, yes, they can. They can. Now, is your partner's friends, do they all feel platonically towards them? I don't know. Does your partner feel platonically towards them? I don't know. Would they bang each other if only one would say yes, one's holding out and one would do it? I don't know. That's very common. So your feelings of being threatened aren't 100% crazy, because oftentimes you'll see, and I'm going to be a little gendered here and say particularly it'll be a man is friends with a woman, but given the chance, he would climb into her bed. That's not uncommon. It does work the other way, but women are more prone to press the brake and men are more prone to press the gas. Therefore, women are more prone to have men in their orbit that would have a physical relationship with them, but are not allowed to, so don't. So I don't know. In the end, you got to trust your partner or not. You don't have to. Mike Pence and his wife have decided not to trust each other for any reason.
He must have messed up back in the day. Yeah, that's the agreement.
Right. But whatever the agreement is, to me, personally, I do not agree to be constrained in that way. I would not let my mate tell me who could be my friend and who couldn't be my friend.
Right.
But I'm not saying it's wrong, but I wouldn't.
Right.
So there you go. Yeah,
when I seen this question, I just knew like it wasn't like a one size fits all. I love the fact that you bring up the just cultural difference in the way things are done, and it's nothing wrong with it. It's just it is what it is. And I think that wherever you are, like obviously we don't know where you are in this relationship. I think that kind of conversation needs to be defined up front, especially the moment you feel like it's an issue. And you know, sometimes it could be insecurity, or sometimes it could be that maybe they used to smash back in the day, you know, like that kind of stuff. And they're like, that's just my friend. Like, I don't know how I feel about that. But I think that regardless, and you know, this happens where people still will remain friends, but it really just depends on the communication piece of saying it. I think a lot of times people at the beginning of the relationship, they get so enamored with the person, they just like don't really say much, they let things go. And so like say it up front. And for people that have friends and you know their mate is struggling with it, you got to figure out, is it a negotiable or non-negotiable, and like what's worth it. I think it really like it doesn't feel like there's like a one size fits all to this question, because of how complicated it can be with culture, with history, you know, with like what works for you, what doesn't. You could have had past relationships where you thought they were friends and found out they weren't friends, and that's a trigger for you, right? And so there's just a lot of different, I think, scenarios that I can't just give a yes or no answer to.
Right. Well, let me give a little weird. This is a weird roundabout example, okay? But I'm a independent. I'm independent, right? So I work for myself, not for any one company. But I get called in to consult for companies. Sometimes I get called in to consult with millionaires, right? Now, I do all right, but I'm not a millionaire, if that wasn't clear, right? But I work with people, 100 millionaires sometimes, okay? And when you're in somebody's orbit who's like that, it's very powerful, because they could change your life. If you got if you're a 100 millionaire, you could give me 1/100th of your net worth and change my whole family's life, right? So that's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the position. I'm kind of in the position, almost like a dude. I'm going to make it a dude. It could go in either direction. Let me be clear. But in this case, I'm going to say a dude who there's a woman who he would sleep with, but they won't have it. Just like this is a person, I would love your $1 million, but you just haven't given it to me yet. You get it? So here's how I, as here's how I handle that in my head. I decide myself beforehand. I'm not here for your $1 million. I don't want your $1 million. And as part of like my professional ethics, I would not accept $1 million from you. I'm not here for a job. Like, I'm consulting, but I'm only here to consult. I wouldn't, if you said, you know what, I like you so much, I want you to be my personal XYZ for $1 million a year. No, that's not what I do. And it would be like malpractice for me to accept that, because knowing that that's on the table would change the way that I interact. So I work with companies and I can tell that they go, no, I want to make you my chief diversity officer or my trained people. No, because I wouldn't be able to be me once I worked for you like that.
Right.
It's a pull to start like playing the politics and company games. Does that make sense, Celeste?
It makes a lot of sense.
So I decide beforehand. And in the same way, I'm a grown man who, until I was in my mid to late 20s, I don't think I was capable of having platonic female friends. I had them, but it was always a thing like, and maybe something will pop off. Maybe. Me and Celeste will hang out. We'll talk about the podcast, and maybe. Right? And then I had to realize, yuck. So what I do now is I decide beforehand, right? Beforehand. Nothing's going to happen because even if you beg me, sometimes I might call it the BJ test, right? If a platonic female friend says, a platonic female friend says, Jeff, can I please just kiss it just one time, just to see if you enjoy it? No, you may not. I won't tell anybody. No, get your hands off me. We're platonic friends, which frankly is not a very common way that dudes roll, to be honest. But that to me empowered me in the same way that I can't be bought by 100 millionaires and I can't be swayed by BJs, with the same philosophy, which is I decide the terms of our relationship. If I decide consultant or if I decide platonic, then that's what we're going to be.
So basically what Jeff is saying, like, you make a decision, like what are you committed to? It makes a lot of sense. 100%.
Yeah.
So, what I wanted to we have like about 10 more minutes. I wanted to, like, you okay with us talking about toxic relationships? I seen this. Oh shoot. All right. I want to touch on toxic relationships really quick. I seen this meme and I just want to, like, I'll for the audio listeners. It's there's a picture of two people in a hazmat suit, and it says, when you're both toxic for each other but you try to make it work. Because the reason why I want to talk about that is because what I've found in my line of work as a therapist is that a lot of times people are struggling in these type of like toxic relationships that don't recognize it. So I'm hoping like you and I can help like kind of define what a toxic relationship would look like, and why people tend to stay in these unhealthy relationships. Because a lot of times people are like staying in this situation. And it's so interesting, you and I, like, we operate exactly the same because of the line of questioning. I'll ask them a question and they're like, oh, actually, I could do this or I could do that, right? And I don't think people sit and pause and recognize the power that they have in their situation. One time, Jeff gave this example on the podcast. He said, base your decision off of if there's only one person that can change, and you're that one person that could change, what would you do? And I heard that on the podcast and I use that shit all the time now. It's like, because I'm just like, yo, that's like mad real. Like, what, like, you're the only person that's could changing. So when it comes to toxic relationships, like, how would you define a toxic relationship?
I would say toxic relationship is any relationship where the people are locked into patterns that hurt the other ones in themselves. Like, it's like the same thing, what would be a classic one? We get depressed and we drink, and then when we do that, we fight. Maybe it's physical, maybe it's not, but it's an ugly fight. Then the next day we each bring each other flowers and say, oh, I'm so sorry. And then to make it up, we drink, and when we drink, we fight. The next day, like, you're just locked in a cyclical poison.
I like that.
What about you? What do you think?
No, I like that. I think that a lot of it has to do with the way, like the unhealthy would be part of my definition, something that's unhealthy, something that's causing you harm, your partner harm. Um, and what I'm trying to think, what is the definition of the word toxic? That might help me with
Mm.
my relationship, with my thing.
Mm.
Let me see what toxic definition is. I should have looked this up before. Give me a second, guys. I'm going to tell you the definition of the word
I'm
toxic.
gonna, I'm gonna make
Okay.
a I'm gonna make a guess without having a dictionary definition in front
Because
of
you're
me. It'll
so
say,
smart. I hate you so
well,
much.
let's see. Maybe I'm gonna guess some words: noxious, poisonous. Are they there?
Yeah. Poisonous is there, pertaining to or affected with, acting as or having the effect of a poison. Yeah. Causing unpleasant feelings, harmful or malicious. So very unhealthy, very just not. And so when we think of the definition of the word toxic, it's like, why would somebody choose, because it's a choice, to stay in something that's poisonous, that's unhealthy? Like when you break that definition down, it's like, who makes that decision to stay? Why do you think people tend to stay in these kind of toxic relationships?
I think of so there's something to a person's nature, right? So people are when you're born, you're not a blank slate, right? You have certain inborn characteristics, but you also are shaped a lot by your environment, the family you grew up in, the way you interact with others, so forth and so on.
Yeah.
And they shape you. So imagine they shape you like a puzzle piece, right? You
Mm-hmm.
have a certain shape, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you shape like this because I don't know, you have a parent that is abusive, so you become an enabler. Then every time you meet someone else who's an enabler, you don't necessarily fit. But when you meet somebody who's abusive, oh, you fit perfectly because you were shaped by an abusive person. So now you fit abusive people, right? So I and it when you fit, it feels good. Even though, I don't know if some people are listening, but I made a hand signal that was the difference between fitting together and clashing. And so the fact is, when you meet somebody who fits you, the cycle works. It works in a loop. Even if it doesn't necessarily feel good, it's kind of complete. You do this, I do that. You do this, I do that. You do this, I do that in a way that works, and it's familiar, and you fall into these familiar roles, and that happens a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
so the challenge is to reshape yourself, right? Kind of against your own natural gravity, to reshape yourself so that you fit with healthy people.
Yeah. And so I want to kind of give my mindset around that, and then just kind of tell people like what they can do to work on changing that dynamic. But what Jeff is saying is literally your system, you're operating off of habit energy, and your system is going what's familiar to it, like the environment of being in an unhealthy situation, a toxic situation is the norm. It's what you know. So leaning to a healthy situation without changing your mindset is highly unlikely. And if you do engage with a healthy person, the likelihood of you guys lasting, unless that person conforms, is highly not likely. You'll get tired of that person because that's not a familiar environment, unfortunately. And a lot of people will say they want somebody healthy, but then when they get that person, it really doesn't work out. So it's so important to like pay attention to the way that, when you find yourself in these patterns, pay attention to them and not leave it to like, well, this is just who I am, or this is just the way that I operate. Because even though I talk a lot about habit energy, and we're doing these like impulsive things, it's not that we can't stop it. It's just that we're not pausing to pay attention to what we're doing. We're just doing it and operating on autopilot. Like I can ride the train, and my stop will come before I realize it if I'm not paying attention, right? Like nobody's making me stay on the train. Like nobody's forcing me down. It's an autopilot thing. Does that part make sense?
No, I think that's exactly true. And what you hear a lot is both one thing you mentioned and another thing. So the thing that you mentioned, which is, this is just how I am, right? People say that because I don't know, they're just trying to justify, like, well, this is just like this is how it is. This is unchangeable, and I think that's not a very helpful way. I mean, unless, I guess, for the rare people that just how they are is excellent, but for most people, just how you are has a big downside. And if you don't work on yourself, then you'll always have that. You'll be 80 years old with the same damn problem you had when you were 16.
They make that justification for living in a C lifestyle. Like
Exactly.
that C earlier when you just talked about like that C
Minus
lifestyle.
yep.
People, you can make your brain feel like you're content with something that you're not content with by making justifications like that, when deep down inside, you know, that's not really what it is.
Right. And then another thing you'll hear people, they'll make generalizations. They'll say a common one is like, why don't guys call back? Let's just say, or why do guys behave this way or that way? But then you'll say, well, actually, a lot of people have very attentive boyfriends or mates, let's say. But it seems like the guys that you choose don't call you back. But that's a painful thought, that somehow you gravitate towards something that's not good for you. I'll say something now. I don't know how to be more clear about this. This is not victim blaming, because I'm not blaming it. This is not about blame. This is about changing your life. Anyone who works with people who are troubled or suffer from domestic abuse knows something. They know that you oftentimes will encounter women who have been in multiple physically abusive relationships. Mm-hmm. And then you'll encounter other women in your life, never been in any. Mm-hmm. This is not about fault, because I'm not blaming as if, well, that's what you get. I couldn't feel more differently. That's not what they get or what they deserve. Mm-hmm. However, when I talk about how you're shaped, some people, because of their life, because of how things have gone, are shaped in such a way where they gravitate to people that hurt them, even though they maybe know that they shouldn't, but maybe they say, well, I'm the only one that understands and can help and fix him. Let's just say that's one thing that you might hear. And so just leaving that one mate doesn't even always cure it. You got to do the work on yourself, because you leave that mate and find somebody just like him.
Yeah.
Find somebody just like him. Yeah. And it's heartbreaking, because this has nothing to do with being a good person, meaning morally good. You can be a good person and get killed by your spouse. Yeah. It's about being good, like good to yourself, effective, better today for yourself than you were last year. That takes work. It takes a different kind of work than just being good, like being nice. Saving your own life, that's a different type of goodness. And so we talk about this just because the way that a human being, basically the way that you're shaped socially, that can change. But if you don't change it, you're going to find yourself again having all your relationships will just be mirror images of your old relationships, because you'll keep fitting the same people over and over again.
Yeah. Ursula, C lifestyle is earlier we talked about like grades A to F. A lot of people stay in like the C range when they can do better with themselves or for themselves. But so yes, you're absolutely right. And with domestic violence is a really good example. When I talk to people about how our system operates that way, nobody loves getting hit or having to go to the hospital all the time. Because when I started working in this field, it would baffle me, like, why dealing with in the homeless shelter, people that keep going out and drinking and losing their housing, and I'm just, I'm like, why is this happening? Then I had to understand that, oh, they're so used to it, like that's their norm. That's what they're used to having happen. And so I think until we like take a pause, and I think growing up in America, all we talk about is success and what's next. We don't talk about being aware of our inner selves, our ego. We let our ego lead the show. We let our habits lead the show. And in our country, we don't take responsibility, right? We'll say like, oh, social media is this and social media is doing that. No, social media is not doing nothing to you. You're allowing it to happen. And so the more I help people take responsibility, where it's not about fault, and I love that you said that, because it's about the responsibility. And I think once you start to take responsibility for where you are right now in your life, nothing's going to change. And like I said earlier in the podcast, if like, I don't want to say I said it because you said it, you know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to take your shit. Like you said a couple podcasts ago, but I be saying it now too. If you're the only person that can make the change, like what would you do? Because a lot of people are waiting for their partner or their mother or their sister or their job to change the way that they're being treated, instead of looking at like, well, what are my options? And so, taking that responsibility can feel hard if this is a new concept to you, but it's so much power in doing that.
I mean, and what it is it feels good. So they talk about success oftentimes, or someone's mindset and how resilient they are flows from whether they believe there's an internal or external locus of control. So in other words, it feels bad to feel like things are just happening to me. And it feels good to say I affect my own life. But the benefit of saying things just happen to me, what feels good about that is that nothing's my fault. So I'm justified, right? That's sometimes people go, well, I have worse outcomes, but I have better reasons why I'm failing. So that's what people like. They go, well, yes, I'm homeless. Sure. I was evicted from my house. Sure. But my landlord was a bastard. Right. So yes, you're eating garbage and living in the street, but you as you're eating that garbage, you go, this is landlord's fault. And people take solace in that. And the goal instead is to have an internal locus of control and say, you know what, the next time I get a landlord, how am I going to handle this a little bit differently? Will I screen, if they're a bastard, will I screen them better? Maybe they really are just awful. Then I'll screen them better. Or perhaps I should have paid my rent. Or perhaps, and this is not to say that everyone who's in trouble, it's their fault. This is different than that. This is the way that you look at the same life. If I had to live the same life twice, and one time I felt like a leaf in the wind, just being blown around. And the other time, I felt like a surfer on the ocean, navigating the inevitable waves. Even in that analogy, do you feel the difference? Doesn't it? When you're the surfer, you're making stuff happen. Sure, there's waves, and sure, there's sharks, and sure, bad stuff can happen. But I'm making things happen versus the leaf on the wind, just at the mercy of whatever life chooses for you. Feeling like you're at the mercy feels terrible. And people that have that outlook routinely do worse because they don't even do the things they could do.
Damn. I'm still in that shit too. That was dope. The leaf and the surfer. Because I mean, I tell people so much of my life, like there was so much that wasn't my fault, but then I always knew I wanted better for myself. My actions show it. And I think that a lot of people, unfortunately, will kind of look at what other people are doing, or if I only had that, if I only had a husband like Celeste, if I only had this, but nobody knows the journey that it took to get to that point. And, I think that if we start thinking about how could I make my today better than my yesterday, not better than just today, not better than just my today, looking at your life, where you are right now, because every step you make is a movement to change it. Just pushing the needle a little, but it's never going to push if that locus is not internal. Boom.
Exactly. Internal locus of control. Hey, thank you. Black Girls Getting Their Shit Together. A thing to think about. Here's something too. Now I've lost weight in my time. Okay. Well, I've gained, first of all, can't lose weight without gaining weight. So I've gained weight in my time. And there was a time when I felt like it was just happening to me. And I'll tell you why. Because I looked around other people, like I'll eat a steak and cheese sub, but I got boys that also eat a steak and cheese sub and then they be thin. So what the fuck? So this is not fair. Why was I cursed in this way? Right? It's not like everyone eats salad but me. We all go eat the Chinese food and then I'm fat. What the hell? Right? But that's the truth. And then slowly realizing, like, look, man, you can be mad that other people have, I don't know, a faster metabolism than you or whatever. I noticed you're not giving back all the good things. I got friends that went bald in their 20s. I noticed that I'm not trading that. I'm not trading that, right? I got friends that can't grow a beard. I got friends that are weak and don't have muscles. I got friends that don't have memory or can't speak or whatever it is, can't do the things that I'm strong at, right? So for those things, no, we don't think about that. We just focus on the one place where I was cheated by the metabolism gods, right? So you take that, but then I would think, okay, well, you know what? When I lose such and such pounds, let's say when I lose 80 pounds, I'll feel good. But it's not true. I felt good when I lost 3 pounds, right? Because 3 pounds is closer to that 80. So a lot of times you don't need to get all the way to the goal. You just need to make a little bit of progress. Do you get what I'm saying? It's like, at a certain point, Celeste must have made the choice to cut her hair or do whatever so that she can grow locks. At a certain point, you must have had to do that. When your end goal is some long locks, but at one point you're like, yeah, I'm starting a hair journey, right? and you start it and you go, oh, I don't really, and I used to have I'm going to make an assumption that you had a perm before or something like that.
So I started with a perm, went with the weaves, and I was working out. I was tired of doing like this. I was tired of patting my hair down because it was itching. I was like, let me just get some locks, and I started with extension locks. I wasn't about the hair journey, but I get your point though.
Right. Well, what you'll see people do, but every time you see, like, you take a picture, go, oh, my hair is growing, oh, whatever it is, like, it's not like I only feel great when I got hair down to my ass. It's like you feel great every step of the way. Celeste, you working out. If y'all probably follow Celeste, you see all her workout videos and stuff like that. Celeste doesn't bench 300 pounds and then do a triple backflip, but she feels good about her progress. Like, look at this. Now I can run on the treadmill for this long. Now I can lift this. This used to be hard, but now it's easy. I've added 10 pounds to that. So the point is to recognize that you don't actually have to get all the way there to start feeling better. The benefits of getting your shit together start right away. It starts right when you realize I've made some progress.
Yes.
So you might as well start today.
Yeah, like, yo, I'm American. My husband's Haitian, and the first time I cooked for him, I made him some boxed rice, and I thought I was doing it, and I thought it was like Goya. It wasn't regular rice. It was the Goya yellow rice. You know what I'm saying? I thought I was doing it, and so. Like I've been like really cooking, and I'm like proud of myself. But every time I made like one thing, now I can make mad shit and pop off. But before, anytime I mastered white rice, and I was happy. White rice.
Well, but there you go. The point. And now I didn't say your husband would be thrilled because he's comparing you to his mother's cooking in his mind, and you're falling short. But for you, like, damn,
I'm so happy.
Yes. This is the first time when you ever made whatever it is, that black rice, and it tastes good. You say, I did it. I actually know how to do that now. That momentum, that feeling of accomplishment. Instead of fixating on how far something is away, judge yourself on, have I gotten closer to that thing today?
Yes, that's good. Exactly. Like, literally, like, and if you don't stop and celebrate the moments, you're all like, you'll complete that goal. And you'll still find yourself miserable. There's a lot of millionaires that are miserable right now. So if it was only about the money and only about the status, then they wouldn't be depressed, right? Like, so it's deeper than that. It's a lot deeper than that.
Very good. Exactly. And that's the antidote to being toxic, which is locking in these negative things that are poisoning you, but you don't change because, I don't know. It's just what I do. It's just, he needs me and she needs me. And that's how we are, and excuse for why I have to live a C- life.
So yeah, and so I feel like when I sum up this conversation, it's taking responsibility for your actions or taking responsibility for your life.
I think I'm going to really say that that's probably the meta message of everything we talk about is how to. It's sometimes it's taking responsibility, and then the other big question is, how do I control someone else? How do I stop my boyfriend from doing the thing that he wants to do and always said he was going to do? How do I stop him?
And then the answer is how to.
The answer is control yourself. You can't control him. I don't even want you to control him. I don't even think it will be good. That would be bad for him if you could control him.
I know. I'm not trying to help you. I'm not trying to help you do that.
Right, and it can't be done if people don't listen. But you can listen to yourself. That's your hope.
Yes, that was good. Thank you. This was good. You're so enlightening. I really enjoy your candor and everything that you do.
I love you having me on, Celeste. You do a great thing, and I love all the listeners and callers and writers. Write some questions, man. Write some questions.
Yes, that was my fault. I didn't do a good job at promoting, but somebody with your resume to come on to Celeste Therapist podcast. Me and my listeners, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, bye. Thank you guys so much for listening. So next week I'll be on Monday and Tuesday. We'll be talking to two different people Monday and Tuesday. If you're a new listener, you can catch this podcast on all audio podcasting platforms. This is episode 301, which means there are 300 more episodes that you can listen to. there's a relationship podcasts with me and Jeff, but then there's so many other episodes where people are talking about their journey and their story. So for people that find themselves feeling stuck, it's a really great platform to help you kind of shift the way you think, really. So thank you all so much for listening. I appreciate you, and I will talk to you later.
Under the 65 days, but I treat every day like under the 65 days, but I treat every day like it's my last. I'm only concerned with building on the future, cause I can't change my past. Positive vibes for positive lives. She just giving you that truth and shifting your mind. It's more mental than you realize. It's up to you to take control, cause this world is cold and negativity gon' take its toll. Now we've been told any day could be your last. I'm embracing every moment and I cherish every laugh, every smile, every hug, every kiss, every touch, every person in my life that I care about and love. But wait, maybe I'm getting too emotional. That's exactly what they say you ain't supposed to do. Suppress your feelings, never talk about your pain. Can't appreciate the sun without acknowledging it rains, right? That's right. So this a moment of clarity, and make sure you always protect your energy. You stay focused and your life gon' be lit. And you are now rocking with Celeste, the therapist. Let's go.